But being vocally critical and disloyal to the project of the State of Israel is heretical where I come from, is deeply offensive to my community, to my family. And I've been told a number of times I'm a disloyal Jew, I'm a bad Jew, I'm not a real Jew, which is so crazy because I did do a 23andMe test and it did come back 96% Ashkenazi Jew, which I don't know if you know is like medically inbred. Something that's tough is I'm a grandchild of a Holocaust survivor, and that gets thrown in my face a lot. Like, how, as a grandchild, a descendant of someone who survived a genocide, how could you possibly accuse your own people of a genocide? So I want to say two things. The first is that surviving abuse does not disqualify you from the capacity to abuse. Most abusers are themselves survivors of abuse. Suggesting that a Jewish nationalized military is somehow incapable of the crime of genocide because they are the descendants of survivors of genocide is not honest or coherent. The other thing I want to say that is actually pretty difficult to talk about and hold and reckon with myself is that my own grandparent, who did survive Nazi concentration camps, was a staunch lover of the State of Israel, was so deeply proud of my family members who served in the Israeli military. It is difficult to sit with the fact that I call the State of Israel an illegitimate project when my own grandfather, who went through unspeakable horrors that I will never know, when he was like, no, that's a good idea. So I've wrestled with this, like, am I disrespectful of my own ancestor because we don't have the same vision for Jewish safety? He's the one with the proximity to experiencing violent persecution. What do I know? I'm a rich Jewish girl from New Jersey. Something that's been really illuminating to me, discovering that there are survivors of the Nazi Holocaust, of European Jewry, who are vehemently stand against or just do not believe, have a totally different worldview than the Zionist worldview. Discovering that gave me a little push to reflect on my own grandparent and consider, I wonder why he thought the things he thought. And I can't have a conversation with him about it because he's no longer alive. But the more I think about it, even if he was still living, or even if my views had crystallized while he was still in my life, I don't know that we would have had a fruitful conversation about it. Because the more I think about my grandfather, the more clarity I see him with. You know, he survived, but he was broken. He was a man who could very easily speak about his experience, about the atrocities that he witnessed. But he was not someone who could have open-ended conversations. Every conversation we had was almost an identical script. They were so repetitive. Every week we would talk on the phone and it would just be the same conversation over and over again. He was stuck. He was stuck in survival mode, in fight or flight. That is the state. That is the emotional state that my entire family inherited from him, which makes sense. But a ruthless, uncompromising Zionist ideology can only be held when you live in that intense state of survival. That when you're shown a picture of a emaciated Palestinian man dying in real time, collapsing from starvation, and your first reaction is, well, what's the real story behind here? I mean, who was that guy? And, maybe he was Hamas. When that's your initial response, as opposed to your heart just breaking, witnessing a man die in real time because of man-made starvation, you are not in an emotional state where you can access your compassion freely. It's that you can't afford to be abundant and indiscriminate with your humanity because you fully believe that you are under attack. I am not under attack. I grew up rich in New Jersey. Okay, well, what if you're not from New Jersey? What if you're Israeli and you actually are under attack? The state of Israel does not get to claim it is under attack. It is a project founded on stolen land, maintained and enforced through brutal military occupation. You're not attacked randomly. You stole someone's home, your boot is on their neck. You think they're not going to fight back? Are you insane? We are high off of the adrenaline of living in fight or flight mode, and the fetishization of Jewish victimhood has eclipsed any sort of room on our agenda for literal emotional restoration and healing. Some people came out and healed, mazel tov. Lots of us came out of that experience and passed on that fear to our children, and we live in that today, to our own detriment and to the absolute detriment and decimation of the Palestinian people. Not to mention Syria, Lebanon. The State of Israel, the biggest group project in Jewish history, is a perfect illustration of Jewish failure to process trauma. Basically, yeah, sure, call me a fake Jew, tell me I'm being rude to my grandfather. You're hurting and you're not dealing with it. And it is erasing an innocent group of people. Jewish pain and trauma are real and valid, but they are not a hall pass for violence. If we can't grieve and recover and validate our own pain without doing violence to our neighbor, what are we doing? But being vocally critical and disloyal to the project of the State of Israel